Blade Runner 2049 was a long time coming and was released 35 years after the original. Because of this, the project went through many changes, most notably its title. One such title previously attached to the project was Blade Runner: Time to Live. This serves as a nod to the original film and twists Roy's final words before his climactic death in the first movie. Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're bringing you Did You Know facts about Blade Runner 2049. So, let's get started. The opening was originally not intended for the movie. Blade Runner 2049 introduces its Blade Runner K by having him visit an isolated farm where he has a tense standoff with a replicant, played by David Bautista. The scene is atmospheric and serves as a great introduction to the character. However, this scene wasn't intended for the sequel, and was written during the production of the original Blade Runner, and was intended to introduce Rick Deckard. The scene was even storyboarded before being scrapped for reasons unknown. Watching Blade Runner 2049, it would be impossible to guess that the scene was written for an entirely different film and fits perfectly. Villeneuve was ready to take a baseball bat to the head for art. Director Denis Villeneuve noted that he was fully aware of the immense pressure he was under and how hardcore fans of the first Blade Runner view the prospect of a new movie. I know that every single fan will walk into the theater with a baseball bat. I'm aware of that, and I respect it. And it's okay with me because it's art. Art is risk, and I have to take risks. It's going to be the biggest risk of my life, but I'm okay with that. For me, it's very exciting. It's just so inspiring. I've been dreaming to do sci-fi since I was 10 years old, and I said no to a lot of sequels. I couldn't say no to this film. I love it too much, so I said, all right, I will do it, and give everything I have to make it great. Harrison Ford punched Ryan Gosling. Blade Runner accidents will happen, even to the most seasoned and professional actors. The set of Blade Runner 2049 was no exception and saw Ryan Gosling receive an unexpected punch in the face from Harrison Ford. The hit occurred when Ford and Gosling were acting out a fight scene in which Ford was supposed to punch Gosling, but not actually hit him. However, the error lies squarely on Gosling, who misplaced his head and thus received a knock. Although, to Ford's credit, he claims to have performed the stunt more than 100 times and only socked his co-star once. The two actors were able to have a laugh about the accident and later shared a bottle of scotch over the incident together. Ridley Scott was unable to direct the sequel. Ridley Scott directed the first movie with great success, bringing his unique talents and excellent filmmaking skills to produce a film that no one had seen anything like before and continues to be influential to this day. So when it came time to make a sequel to his masterpiece, he seemed like the obvious choice. However, Denis Villeneuve was instead given role as director and allowed to put his vision on screen. This is because Ridley Scott was otherwise engaged with Alien Covenant, which he was committed to direct, and so he was forced to pass on the project. He was disappointed at this prospect, but accepted it with grace, claiming, "It's a bit of a bugger, but there we are." Expanding the lore of Blade Runner. Alongside the release of Blade Runner 2049, 3 short films were also released which served to bridge the gap between both films and expand the world with new perspectives and additional character. The first of these was 2036, Nexus Dawn, which served as a prequel to 2049 and focused on Neander Wallace. The second was 2048, Nowhere to Run, which saw Dave Bautista's character Sapper Morton return and his identity as a replicant become known. Last but not least was the release of the third film, this time an animated short. Blade Runner Blackout debuted on Crunchyroll and saw a powerful weapon cause a global blackout. These animated films expanded the world of Blade Runner, making it richer and more complex. The Baseline Test. In Blade Runner 2049, the Voight-Kampff test has been replaced by the modern and more strict Baseline Test. The Voight-Kampff test was based on empathy, by creating emotional reactions to the individual. If the interviewee didn't exhibit the appropriate emotions, the LAPD would claim the individual as a replicant. However, the Baseline test is designed to check the opposite. The Voight-Kampff was used to find Nexus 6 replicants, and the test was conducted by a Blade Runner. The Baseline test analyzes a Nexus 9 replicant's stability. The Blade Runners are being tested to see if their operating system is stable, and check if there have been any changes to their brain, psyche, and personality. Since the Blade Runner's job is to kill their own kind, they have to be evaluated frequently to check that they aren't developing emotional responses. Blade Runner 2049 as a whole is a movie that questions many philosophical aspects of life. It questions artificial intelligence, the meaning to be a human, and life in a dystopian society, among others. The city of Los Angeles is under a totalitarian state, and replicants, such as Agent K, are always being checked daily. A simple deviation from their routine will lead them to death, like test animals in a laboratory. The claustrophobic, plain white baseline test booth depicts the essence of this totalitarianism. Eyes are windows to the soul. Eyes are everywhere in the Blade Runner universe, both thematically and literally. Both films open with an eye, mirroring the world and raising philosophical questions of perception. Do humans and replicants see the world differently? Alon Tyrell is killed when Roy Batty pushes both thumbs into his eyeballs, and the Voight-Kampff test measures the fluctuation of the pupil. Even the eyes of the replicants glow, distinguishing them from humans. The eye theme carries over to 2049. Neander Wallace is blind, and, like Tyrell, they are both heralded as visionaries. When Wallace offers Deckard a new model of Rachel, her authenticity is questioned because of the color of her eyes, suggesting that her soul isn't the same. A shared universe. Blade Runner 2049 is technically the first sequel to Ridley Scott's epic. Or is it? Kurt Russell's 1998 movie Soldier, written by David Peoples, co-writer of the original Blade Runner, is considered to be set in the same universe as the Blade Runner franchise. Russell's military operative Sergeant Todd is shown to have fought at Tannhauser Gate, a battle mentioned by Roy Batty in the infamous Tears in the Rain monologue, and the trash planet where Todd is marooned clearly shows a spinner amongst the junk, the flying car used by Deckard. Real wood, you're rich, my friend. The universe of Blade Runner is littered with really interesting details, adding to the realism of the film. As suggested by the prequel spin-off films, life has changed considerably between 2019 and 2049. For one, the nuclear blast set off by replicants to restrict the Replicant Registration Act has wiped out all stored data records. To make life worse, the fallout has also affected the planet's ecosystems, meaning natural commodities are in very short supply. Wood, for example, seems to be one of the most valuable commodities in 2049. Neander Wallace's building appears to be made of entirely wood, demonstrating his immense wealth and power. It's a small detail that shows just how extravagant he is. The origami significance. In the original Blade Runner, Deckard's partner Gaff, played by James Edward Olmos, makes origami figures, possibly clues that indicate Deckard may be a replicant, depending on which version of Blade Runner you subscribe to. The origami unicorn in Deckard's apartment mirrors a dream only included in the director's cut and the final cut, both sanctioned by Ridley Scott himself, implying that Gaff knew he was a replicant all along. When Kay visits Gaff in a retirement home and is given an origami sheep, the debate is reopened. Blade Runner is based on Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? So is this fourth-wall-breaking fan service? Is Gaff feeding us more clues to Deckard's existential question? Or is he just calling Kay a sheep? So what other fun trivia facts do you know about Blade Runner 2049? Did we get something wrong? Is there a scene worth mentioning that we haven't talked about in this video? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this type of content, why not subscribe to our channel? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in our next video.